Our question for this episode, how can you tell if you're over your ex? I think just by virtue of asking this question, you're probably not over your ex. I will start there. If your ex is still taking up real estate in your mind,
Yes.
and they're living there rent-free, as people like to say, you're not over your ex and you haven't fully processed them out of your system.
I think if you're trying to find them still, and I think social media makes this too damn easy, if you were looking up your ex on social media, my ex didn't even use social media yet, I would still look him up. And I feel like once he like barely posted ever, but I still would like search for him. And then there becomes a day that you don't anymore. And that's when you know that you've moved on, or when you're secretly hoping they're going to text you out of nowhere.
Yes.
Or, you know, everything you see reminds you of them in some way. And then one day you're just not thinking about them. And I think that's when you have moved on from your ex.
Oh, I've been there so many times. There are days that a lot of us try to recognize patterns. Well, usually he would have texted me by now. Usually after we break up, he would have contacted me by now. And then you get all disappointed if they don't. That's when you know you're really not over it, because you're still counting down the days. And I've also found with myself, I know I'm not over an ex when I talk shit about them. If someone's like, oh, what was your last relationship like? If I go on a first date and then I talk shit about them, how terrible they were, or how toxic they were, I know I'm not over it because it's still affecting me somehow. But you start to feel like you're over your ex when it doesn't affect you like that anymore. You can talk about it more objectively and not get all worked up about it.
I think it can swing the other way, too, is even if you're not talking shit about them, but you're comparing everyone you meet to them.
Yes.
You're keeping them on this pedestal, because I've been there before, where one, I would come out of the date and be like, this was horrible because they're not like my ex, and be upset. Instead of giving a new person a new chance. That's one piece of it. The other side is sometimes I would find myself even talking about my ex on dates.
Oh, I
and
know.
that means that you're not over it. You know, I think there's a time and a place to reveal some of your past relationship history, but especially on a first date, I don't think that's necessary. And I think sometimes when you're spending a lot of time talking about your ex, there's an ulterior motive that you just want to talk about them, and not because you need to like get information about this new person in any way. So I think, I think sometimes it does take just meeting someone else. I think there's a piece of that you might never be fully over them until you meet someone else. But I think you start to see it wane when you're, constantly thinking about them. It's very hard to meet someone else because they are just, even if they're not physically with you or even in contact, they're just occupying so much mental space. So I think if you're not 100% over your ex, you can cut yourself some slack and don't feel like you need to be 100% to date again. Because I just don't know if that's ever realistic. But I do think you can tell when you are 75% not over them. And that's probably not the right place to be in to date.
No, and you know it. You just feel it because you're still indulging yourself in those moments of memories. You're still going down that path of, oh, I remember when we did this and how we met and the moment he or she said this to me. You're still living in that world in the past. You haven't exactly come into the present. So how can you even focus on the future? And like Julie said, it's be very open to that feeling. That's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself, but also acknowledge that that's what you're going through. Something you'll hear in this episode is you have to fully process the person before you can really before you can say that you are over them. And processing means feeling the feelings still and not ignoring them. Every time you think of your ex, it doesn't help you to say, no, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to distract myself, because they're going to keep coming up anyway. So you just got to go through the process of getting them out.